This Means War. We're going to be talking about what this is in the This That Means War. And we're going to be talking about war in just a minute. You are live right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people, coming to you with Community Voices, hosted by your girl, the Reverend Denise Donnell. You can just call me Denise. And I am in the studio with your co-host, the pastor. Grand rising to you, humans. We are grateful for your presence in this space as we begin to have this conversation that centers the bodies of Black folks. But this is a conversation that includes everybody, because none of us are free in this space. None of us are liberated in this world, because if anybody is not free, then that means none of us are free. We want to talk about how to get free today. How to be liberated. We're going to talk about this every time we come on to Community Voices. So thank you for being here. Your presence in this space humbles us. It reminds us that if it were not for you, it would not be possible for us to show up. The people, you are the reason why we are here. And we are celebrating this month on the 28th of August, 39 years of local community radio that is now streaming globally. So we have people listening all over the world to this conversation that you make possible every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. right here at KABF 88.3 FM. The phone lines will be open. They are open right now at 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. Please call in and lend your voice to the conversation. Let us know what it is you're thinking and feeling about the comments and the opinions that are being expressed that are not the comments and the opinions of KABF, but of this radio show, Community Voices, right here at KABF 88.3 FM. Before I go any further, let me please pause for just a moment so that you can be greeted by your co-host this morning, because I am not in the studio alone. Grand rising to you, Tony.
Grand rising to you. Good morning to all of you who are tuning in and listening. Thank you. We appreciate you. As Denise said, this is our anniversary month for KABF 88.3 FM. Been a 100,000 watt platform for your voices, for community action, for, as the song said, for war in a lot of ways. And we use this to help enlighten, educate, and empower all who listen. Just want to take a moment just to thank all of you for your donations, for your pledges that are coming in. There was a substantial pledge and donation yesterday that we're really appreciative for. And so we just thank you. So I'm looking forward to the show today. Looking forward for your comments. And I know this happens with Denise and it happens with me also. I'm going to hear about the show, whether it's a phone call, a text, or email. You know, and sometimes it's funny because some of those emails go to the station manager and to board members that I guess the people call themselves snitching. You know, I'm gonna report them, and so even with that makes me in a way feel like, okay, then I am, and we are doing what we're supposed to do. If it elicits a response like that it hits a nerve with you, then the question has to become, why did it hit a nerve with you? Okay.
I want to make sure that I give a special thank you to those of you who showed up for the play Skeleton Crew on last week. We had the artistic director of Ozark Living newspaper, Keith Harper, in the studio, getting us ready for opening night that happened on this past Thursday. The show ran from Thursday to Sunday, and every night was packed. And the Sunday matinee was packed. Thursday was sold out. Friday night attendance was not good. I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. It was not good. We're trying to, of course, we are in conversation with each other, trying to figure out how we can do better on Fridays for the next play that we have, because we are having another play soon. So I do want to say thank you. There was the doctor that showed up who called in and got the tickets.
Yeah, Dr. Wright.
Dr. Wright. Dr. Wright, it was so great to meet. It always feels good to meet people face to face after you've been introduced to them over the air, right? So you've been listening and talking with just your voices, but then to see you face to face, to be able to touch you, to be able to say, yes, put my hands, I'm like the old people say, I need to lay my eyes on you. And so that was great. I know that Mr. Henderson was there. I know Mac had tickets.
He showed, I believe he went. Also, just want to shout out to Miss Abernathy, who called in and got tickets. She texted me and said she really enjoyed the play. So I'm glad we were able to help facilitate people seeing the play.
Absolutely. And we will make those opportunities available to you every single time they arise, because we want you to be as involved in community as you possibly can. We want you to know that there is a lane for you. We want you to know that there is a space for you. We want you to know that your voice will be heard, that we want to give you the amplification for your voice. We don't want to give you a voice because you already have one, but we want to help amplify that in as many ways as we can. So thank you for your support for Skeleton Crew.
So I have one more announcement I need to make. So there have been inquiries about the equipment and when it would be installed. So I have to backtrack because in the beginning I was told that all the equipment was in, but come to find out all the equipment is not in. There are two pieces that are very, very crucial to making sure everything is put in right. We have the board, we have the mixer. What we don't have is the phone hybrid. It's been an issue getting it delivered. And so hopefully, I'm not going to put a timetable on it anymore, but hopefully within the next month, it will all be in. I know that the DJs, the hosts, and the listeners can't wait. I can't wait. But without this one piece of equipment, which is going to make phone calls so much easier, where you don't have to be flipping in everything, it will make it so much better. So once that part comes in, I did go see the engineer. He showed me everything that we have, but that one piece. So hopefully it comes in soon and we can get it done.
Well, you said you weren't going to put a timetable on, but then you said within a month. So did you mean to say that?
I said hopefully. So is that putting a timetable on?
If you say within a month.
Hopefully we'll get it done soon.
Okay, because if you say a month, we're going to be looking for a month. I'm just saying, that's how we roll. And so
Okay.
thank you for that update, Toney, because people are, I'm concerned and people are concerned. We want to know where the equipment is, and especially with our money being involved. So we are waiting. I want to pause and give us the tidbit for today from the Equal Justice Initiative on August. This is actually August the 14th, which was yesterday. So I do pick and choose which tidbits I want to offer. I used to always do Tuesdays, but now I just want to make sure that I pick the one that helps move the conversation forward. So I'm choosing that one that contributes to the conversation that I'd like to have with us on today. And so on August 14th in the year 1908, we have this after a failed lynching attempt. A mob of 5,000 white people in Springfield, Illinois, storms Black neighborhoods, burns Black businesses and homes, and kills Black residents. On August 14th, in the year 1908, after a failed lynching attempt, a mob of 5,000 white people in Springfield, Illinois, storms Black neighborhoods, burns Black businesses and homes, and kills Black residents. One of the things that we don't talk about enough in my opinion, is the plethora of ways violence manifests itself in our world. Many times when we talk about war, which is what has happened in this space with me, many times when we talk about war, when we talk about fighting, when we talk about the struggle, most of the time people have this image that it is a physical fight, that people are out there swinging, people are cutting each other with knives, people are shooting each other with guns, and that is the image that we have with war. Probably because our country is rooted in war. I think it's only been a little over 200 years of our entire existence as a country that we have not been at war. And so war is always attributed to the military, the armed forces. So we're thinking about weapons, we're thinking about body armor, we're thinking about shields and riot gear. That's what comes to mind when we say that we are at war. And so when we see a tidbit like this, where white people are at war with black people because they weren't able, they got mad. They got mad because they could not lynch the person or persons they wanted to lynch, and so they retaliated in anger. Their rage overflowed to the point that they just wanted to kill and destroy anything. That's what white violence looks like. That's why we have the system of enslavement that gives them control, that gave them control, continues to give them control over bodies. So we can do whatever we want to do with your body. We can make sure that we mangle it and dehumanize it and degrade it in whatever way. But that's not the only way that war shows up in our midst. And so I want to talk about that today. Yes, I said the other day, we are at war. And I do not understand how a person can be at war and not understand or not realize and recognize and acknowledge that there comes a time in the war where you must be physical. But I also said that that is only one of the tactics that is used in war. There are several ways that we can fight that do not include hand-to-hand combat, or do not include physical weapons like guns and knives. But there are other ways, psychologically, emotionally, where we can, spiritually, educationally, intellectually, where we can fight. And so I've been thinking about those comments because I've been extremely disappointed with members of the Black collective who continue to promote this idea of forgiveness in the face of violence for Black folks, to continue to promote this idea of turning the other cheek, continue to promote this idea that if you are righteous, if you are holy, if you are sacred, then you will stand down. That is not the Jesus that I know. It is not the Jesus that I want to know. And it certainly is not the Jesus that I am in intimate relationship with. And so I wanted to take a moment to just give us a picture of the different ways that violence shows up amongst us, that violence intentionally against Black bodies shows up, so that we can broaden our perspective about what it means to be in war. And so I chose Charles Jenkins, who is singing this song with the Chicago Fellowship Choir.
Homeboy.
Okay, yeah. Tony's homeboy, singing this song, This Means War. This has been in the back of my mind for quite some time because Phyllis Brown and I have conversations offline all the time. Mr. Henderson and I have conversations offline all the time. There's several of you where I am constantly in conversation offline all the time. And there was a church that had a youth group. The children looked like they were, I'm not good with aging folks, but they looked like maybe they were between the ages of, let's just say 5 and maybe 16 or so. And they were in this church and they were playing this song, This Means War, and there was a liturgical dance happening. And so a liturgical dance is basically just a dance that you set to sacred music. It's the same as dancing in the street. It's the same as dancing to R&B and rap. Just because we do it in church, we call it liturgical because the words that are guiding us are words that we consider to be of God. Praise dance. Okay, some people call it praise dance. And so they are doing this praise dance. The children are performing at this church to this song, This Means War. And so I began to ask the question. You've got 5-year-olds. dancing to This Means War. What have you taught the 5-year-old about what it means to be? Have you even taken the time with your praise dance or your liturgical dance or your church performance or your entertainment on Sundays? Have you taken the time to sit with that 5-year-old on the level of a 5-year-old to help them understand what it means to be at war? Have we done that? Or are we just having these children singing and dancing, again, for show, for entertainment, for pleasure, for liturgy at our church? Like, what are we doing? So this was the conversation that we were having around how are we theologically preparing our children to understand that we are at war. And so I took the time to look up the words. Y'all know I love words. If you don't know, now you know. I love words. So I took the time to look up the words to the song because I wanted to make sure I myself understood what the message was to these children. Because remember, these are 5-year-olds up to like 16-year-olds at singing, dancing to this song, This Means War. And so what Charles Jenkins says is, I got joy in my soul because God is in control. I don't know about some of your experience at churches, but the churches that I've been to that I would call charismatic, not necessarily Black, but just charismatic, meaning that we embody the Spirit when we are at worship. So we don't mind clapping our hands. We don't mind raising our arms. We don't mind shouting down the aisle. We don't mind kicking off our shoes. We don't mind running around the sanctuary. We don't mind shouting, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. We don't mind falling out and being slain in the Spirit. We embody the Spirit. We believe that we are here for God's message and that we feel it in our bones. So for those kinds of charismatic churches, if all in some of those churches, all you got to say is the first 2 lines, I got joy in my soul because God is in control, and somebody will shout. And once they begin to shout, they can no longer hear. You can't shout and hear at the same time. It's just not possible. The same way I would say to my students when I was teaching public school, that if I am talking to you, wait until I finish before you raise your hand to ask a question. Because first of all, I'm probably going to answer your question before I'm done. And secondly, while your hand is in the air, you're thinking about your question, so your mind is occupied, so you cannot hear what I'm saying. It's the same sentiment. If you're so busy shouting, if you're so busy dancing, if you're so busy being high in the Spirit, high and lifted up, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't hear at the same time, and that becomes a problem. So when he says, I got joy in my soul, God is in control, and you start shouting, you don't hear the rest of the words. I see you, it's my sorrow. Tamara Thomas here for the message. We're talking about This Means War this morning on KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people, using this song from Charles Jenkins, grounding us in this space, because he actually has a song that says, This Means War. And then he goes on to say, I got Satan on my trail, but I'm singing all is well. Now, you got Satan on your trail, which means the way that I understand that my Christian experience is when the devil, who is Satan, the devil is on your tracks, then that means that you are under attack. So somebody is coming for you. This invisible force is coming for you, he talks about it later. You can't have my family. You can't have my increase. Coming for the things that you believe are rightfully yours, that you have declared that God has given you. So the Satan is coming after your stuff. And so while Satan is coming, you're going to just say, wait, I'm singing all is well. So Satan is on your track. You're not fighting back. You're singing that all is well because you're trusting that God is going to fix it. How do I know that you're trusting God is going to fix it? Because later on you say, I plead the blood. What does that mean when we say, I plead the blood? Do we take the time? Because remember, these are children dancing to this song. These are young adults dancing to this song. What does it mean when you say to them, just plead the blood of Jesus? Even though you feel like everything ain't right, even though you're being bullied at school, even though you're being abused in your home, even though you are confused about what's happening around you, just plead the blood of Jesus and you'll be all right. So what do we mean when we say that? And what we mean is that the blood that Jesus shed on Calvary, for those of us who agree with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we believe that he was crucified, we believe that on the third day he arose again. When he was crucified, blood was shed because he was flogged 39 times before he was hung on that cross. So it was a bloody experience. His skin was being torn. His flesh was being torn from his body. It's a bloody experience. But the blood of Jesus saves us. It protects us. It covers us. So no matter what this invisible force of Satan is doing to me, coming after my stuff, all I got to do is trust that this blood that Jesus shed over 2,000 years ago, according to the text, will protect me and my family and my increase and my breakthrough. And so what I need to do is just pause in the midst of it all and just plead the blood of Jesus. And so I'm thinking about these words. First of all, wondering, do we take the time to explain them to our children? Secondly, do we take the time to make sure the children understand them? And thirdly, which for me is the most important, do we help children and youth, or even adults, understand how to apply the words to their lives? That becomes the question for me when we start talking about this means war in this theological realm that Charles Jenkins offers to us, because I'm going to take issue with it in just a moment, but I want to make sure I give Toney time to respond. If you have a response, I don't know.
It's a lot there. So I do agree that in most instances, churches don't take the time to truly explain to children, not just in praise dancing, but in anything in church. They don't take the time to explain or go in depth of why. In the context of a praise dance, most of it is that it is for show. It is for entertainment. So, people can say, "Oh, look at my baby. Look at them, and oh, they anointed and all this." But are you really teaching them what they're doing and why they're doing it? On the second part, I think what happens is they're not people in the church are not being really taught and connected, in certain ways. So when I hear Charles Jenkins sing this song, It Means War, yes, I know whether you call it Satan, whether you call it systems, whether you call it white inhumanity, whatever you call it, it's on my trail. It's on my trail. It's coming after me. Yes, I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to have it in my heart, in my mind that, hey, whatever you come at me with, I'm going to be able to survive it. Even if I have to stop in the midst and go to war and fight. And I think that's where it gets lost at sometimes, that, and it's just my belief that when people start talking about, oh, I'm going to praise my way through, is that I'm just going to sit back and let whatever happen to me happen to me. No. Part of your praise is the power that's within you. Part of what you're trying to accomplish is the power within you. And if you rise that power up, then you can fight whatever is coming your way. You're going to have to get bloody in some way. And I don't, and when I said bloody, I don't just necessarily mean blood coming out your hands, blood, in somebody's face. You're going to have to get bloody somehow. You're going to have to get bloody with your voice. You're going to have to get bloody with your actions. You're going to have to engage in this fight somehow. And that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's interesting that you hear that, because the next couple of phrases that Charles Jenkins sings is that he's attacking every day. And again, he in this context means Satan. Satan is this invisible force that we give so much power to theologically, especially for those of us who profess to be Christians. Satan is our number one enemy. And so he's attacking every day, but I'm watching while I pray. This is what Charles Jenkins says. Now, Satan is on my trail. He says that. Satan is on my trail, but I'm singing all is well. He's attacking me every day, but that important conjunction. But I'm watching while I pray, which means you sitting back and praying and waiting. That's what watching means. I'm waiting for the Spirit. When we say we're going to tarry, we're waiting for the Spirit to fall. In the, Acts 2, when they were in the upper room and they were waiting on the Holy Spirit. They were waiting us. We sitting here tarrying. We're waiting for our change to come. We're waiting for our Jesus to show up. We're waiting for our God to appear. We're going to sit right here with each other and just hope and pray until our help comes. So there's no engagement with the community. There's no engagement with the system. There's no fighting against these issues that are really attacking you. It's waiting for God to show up so that everything will be all right. And so I don't have a problem with the song. I don't have a problem with the words of the song. I have a problem with the way we interpret the song and how the song positions us to disengage from the fight, the struggle, the war. And I'm defining war in this way, in this context. War is defined as the struggle to achieve a goal. So let me just talk about the different ways that the Black body is at war right now. Struggling to achieve a goal. The goal is collective liberation. We're trying to get free. We're trying to be liberated. There's a difference between freedom and liberation, but we're trying to be liberated in this space of Blackness, this space of being in a Black body, Black being defined as all members of the African diaspora. So let's just talk about a little bit what we are facing in this country, not in the world. I'm just talking about this country. So I'm going to just listen. In Mississippi, 6 former Mississippi law enforcement officers pled guilty to all state charges because that stem from torture and abuse of 2 Black men, one of whom was shot in the mouth. In Michigan, a 12-year-old was handcuffed, 12-year-old Black boy was handcuffed while taking out the trash. In Alabama, a Black man was attacked by 6 white men for doing his job. In Florida, DeSantis, the governor, suspends the state attorney, Monique Worrell, who is Black and who's Democrat, because her politics don't align with his. The Big Brother show had to release Luke Valentine because he kept calling, not one time, more than one time on the show that airs on TV, kept calling his fellow contestant the N-word. The U.S. Women's World Cup, where there are Black women on the team, Trump blames Megan Rapinoe and wokeness, any attempt to center or even begin to get people to think about Blackness. We're going to blame that on the fact. We're going to blame wokeness, people paying attention to what's happening to Black folks, for the U.S. Women's World Cup exit. In Detroit, a Black mom sues the city for false arrest while she was 8 months pregnant because they falsely recognized, because of the facial recognition technology that caused her to be in that situation. In New York, O'Shea Sibley was killed for dancing at the gas station. In New York, Jordan Neely was killed on the subway for being homeless. The Center for Disease Control has declared that the causes of deaths, diabetes, kidney disease, maternal and neonatal disorders, HIV and AIDS, sexually transmitted infections are consistently higher among the Black population than among the white population in nearly all counties where they have data that is available. These disparities are racial and they are ethnic in the healthcare field. Black people in red-lined neighborhoods face higher risks for heart failure. Black maternal deaths continue to rise. This is reported by the CDC. In California, they put a ban on critical race theory. In Ohio, a K-9 officer unleashed a dog on a black man. In Oklahoma, the judge dismissed the Tulsa Rape Massacre reparations case that was filed by the last known survivors. The Supreme Court of the United States of America, in its landmark ruling on affirmative action, says that we no longer have to take race into consideration, especially when we are dealing with cases in higher education. DEI, the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, has caused a change in the employment livelihood for all these Black women. LaTanya Newton, Vernee Myers, Karen Horn, Nicole Hannah-Jones, Janelle English, and Dr. Christina Cleveland. In Los Angeles, a Black woman bled internally for nearly 10 hours that led to her death just hours after giving birth. In South Carolina, Josephine Wright, she has 1.8 acres of land that belongs to her husband's family and has been in his family since the Civil War, and the property developer is coming for it because he's trying to build some residential development next door. Gun violence in areas with higher Black populations, mass shootings are likelier to occur, and it's a consequence of structural racism. In housing, zoning laws reinforce racial and class segregation. Back in Los Angeles, a deputy punched a young mother twice in the face as she held her 3-week-old baby during a traffic stop. In Tennessee, former NFL player Michael Orr has to file a petition to end the conservatorship that happened when he was supposedly, we thought he was adopted by that white family, but he wasn't adopted by, y'all remember that story, The Blind Side? They did not adopt him because as long as they didn't adopt him, they could capitalize and gain financially from being his conservators. In Arkansas, the Department of Education won't give students the same credit for AP African American classes as they would for AP European classes. And in fact, the students who take AP African American classes, you can still take it, but you're going to have to pay for your own test. In Texas, a Black family from Arkansas was held at gunpoint because they don't know the difference between Arizona and Arkansas. In Missouri, a Black teen was shot ringing a wrong doorbell. In Nevada, historically Black neighborhood has been sinking, for decades. In Pennsylvania, 3 officers are sentenced to probation in the fatal shooting of an 8-year-old Black girl named Fanta Billady. In broadcasting, the Oakland A's announcer uses the N-word because he got it confused with the word Negro. Couldn't seem to figure out the distinction between those 2 words. In sports, you've got the United States tennis star Sloane Stephens continues to experience racial abuse on social media because she dares to be great. In Mississippi, an 11-year-old, Adarian Murray, was shot by a police officer who was responding to a 911 call. In Missouri, hundreds of people traveled to a monastery to look at this Black nun's body because they just can't believe how good a shape it's in after she was killed. She's been dead for 4 years. Wasn't killed, but she's been dead for 4 years, and now they're marveling over her body like she's some kind of experiment, and her name is Wilhelmina Lancaster. In Texas, an 8-year-old died in U.S. immigration custody, even though the mother repeatedly asked for an ambulance. In Florida, a white woman shoots and kills a Black woman because she was angry that the Black children were playing near her home. In Kentucky, widespread racial harassment is happening to Black students in their schools. North Carolina, they fired the man for teaching a novel about racial profiling during Black History Month, and the name of the book is Dear Martin. In Chicago, a police sergeant holds a teen in the prone position with his knee because his son had lost his bike and he was getting vengeance. rights. Louisiana, the redistricting maps violate the Voting Rights Act. And in Florida, they are using now a curriculum for middle school students that says enslaved humans benefited from the system of enslavement because we learned skills that can help us progress individually. And y'all, I just got tired. I just stopped because I got tired. So all over this country, we are at war. And it does not mean that I am physically fighting somebody with my fists. And as long as we think that's the only way violence shows up against our bodies, we are already losing the fight. We are already losing the struggle because we sitting back watching and praying while this invisible Satan that we've been taught is coming after us. And I'm just going to sing and plead the blood. No, we've got to interpret the words to understand that the war is at our door. It is not invisible. I can see it clearly. And there is a way that I can fight. There is a way that I can struggle until I see my change come. And change is already happening. It's yet on its way, but only for those of us who can recognize it. And I'm not sure you can if all you do is sit and sing Charles Jenkins' song.
What I think about, since we are using these stories and this idea of Satan, this attack, I think about this story in the Bible, story about Nehemiah. Nehemiah was trying, to me, and I'm interpreting it my way, he was trying to rebuild the system. He was trying to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. He was trying to me, not only rebuild, but change. But there was so much opposition. And he was under attack. And what he did, he told the people, he said, you have your sword in one, you have your weapon in one hand, and you build with the other hand. And when you hear the enemy come, blow, so that we can all rally together. So when I hear the words, I know I'm under attack. I know it's coming. Yes, I'm asking for guidance. I'm praying and asking for guidance so that when I strike, I'm going to make sure I'm striking in a way that's going to not only defend me, defend the collective, defend my family. I'm going to keep my eyes open. What happens a lot of times, you're praying, but you're not keeping your eyes open. You're hoping, but you're not keeping your eyes open. Most of the time, we're not even prepared to fight. We're not even prepared to be in this war. We have gotten lax, we have gotten complacent, and when the war happens, we don't know what to do. And so I just look at it differently.
You look at what differently?
As we were talking about the discussion about watching and praying and attack. That's why I use that analogy. That's why I use the story from Nehemiah. Yes, you watching, but you got to be ready to fight too.
Charles Mugaga, listening from Kampala, Uganda. Sawubona to you, Doctor. Greetings to you and Toney Orr. Thanks for the show and looking fresh. You see me? Ooh, ooh. It's always good to hear from you, Charles. Michael Thomas, enjoy the broadcast. Take care and stay safe. And you stay cool. Is it hot out there? It's hot out there. And so that is my problem with the conversation that has been unfolding about the Montgomery brawl, because so many Black folks are chiming in because they are ashamed of us. So many, and particularly Black men, and particularly Black men that have some association with Christianity. I don't know them well enough to say whether or not they're Christians who go to church and give their tithes and all of that. But I do know that when I'm in conversation with them, or when they call up to the show, or when I see them in the community, they talk about God and they talk about Jesus. And so it has been disappointing to me to hear Black folks begin to talk about how we shouldn't be fighting. We shouldn't be behaving ourselves this way. We shouldn't allow them to help to make us act like we were acting on the broad, not recognizing that this was war and it was a struggle to achieve a goal, and that ultimate goal is collective liberation. And so when we sit, if we're gonna be guided by this God, then it's important that this God be speaking to us on a level that all of us can understand if it's supposed to unify us. But if some folks over here saying, well, I plead the blood means I'm supposed to watch and pray, and some people saying, well, no, it means you're supposed to keep your eyes open, and some people saying, no, it means you're supposed to tarry, then now we are confused. But God is not the author of confusion, so the question becomes, who are you serving? Caller, you're live on the air, KBF 88.3. Thanks so much for calling.
Yes. I'm having a problem with this war situation. I think we are prisoners of war because the white supremacists have us subject in all areas of people activity, which include education, entertainment, economics, labor, law, politics. Why are we saying that we are fighting when we really are not fighting? And our brother Wayne on his show, he called it the Baby Hewitt complex. Now we know they're trying to kill us and all that, but in what way are we fighting back? They say if we vote, that's our panacea, or cure all. But I don't think that we really can size up the religion that they have, which is to hurt non-white people. I mean, as long as we remain subject, wouldn't you say we are prisoners of war, or we are just, kind of help me clarify that. Do you think we're prisoners of war, or is just, because they say the only major war is the race war. And I don't see that we are really putting our foot down and saying, hey, we're ready for a fight, especially if we are prisoners of war. Kind of help me clarify that, if you will.
Okay, thanks, Solar Beam. I want to just say this part first, and then I'll let Tony chime in. I want to say something to you, Tony. A few minutes ago, you said, I want to pray so that I can make sure that when I strike, I am going to strike in a way that helps, or I don't remember verbatim, because this is the part that struck me. So if you are fighting, it depends. I guess my question is, to whom are you praying to get instructions on how to fight? Because if you're praying to the one who has you imprisoned, then what instructions is your overseer, the guard, what instructions is he gonna give you that's gonna help you get free? And so this becomes the problem with the religion that we have ascribed to as Black folks particularly, and Black folks in the South especially, that we pray into the God who has us imprisoned, if you believe what Solar Beam says, that we are prisoners of war. So how you gonna get free when you waiting on the person who got you bound to give you permission to strike? How does that work?
Well, first of all, you have to define, and only you can define. Only you can define. I know we keep talking about this system of religion, this system that we ascribe to, but at some point in time, you have to open up your minds to a different understanding of who your God is, and what you believe God really is. And once you get there, because part of war, you got to have some strategy. You got to have some type of game plan. You got to have something. And that's what happens a lot of times when it comes to this war we're fighting, is that there's no game plan. People are just out, just not focused and not together. Going back to what was happening in Montgomery, when that incident happened, everybody who joined in said, there's the game plan right there. That's what we need to do. And others were sitting back, oh, well, I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to be directed. You don't have to wait because you see it. Now, whether those people or those black people who jumped in, whether they said, Lord, do I need to go do this? Or whether they said, you know what? I already know the power in me says I need to do that. I understand what you're saying. The collective black church, the collective black religion does not ascribe to that. And that's where it has to change. Part of the war we have to fight is starting with the war in our minds. If we can quit that, then we can move.
Yes, but the war that's in our minds is happening because of conditioning. It's happening because of tradition. It's happening
so
because
you have
of
to
black.
unlearn
You
what you
can't
learned.
unlearn it if nobody's teaching you how.
But when we are being taught how, we resist it so much.
Well, first of all, it's hard to unlearn something. And secondly, I think you're giving the black church more credit than it deserves in the unlearning process, because the black churches that I go to are not teaching us that we are at war. They're teaching us that we need to plead the blood of Jesus. They're teaching us that these black churches still have a white Jesus up as the epitome of who Christ is. These churches are not even teaching that Jesus and the Christ are two different people. Jesus, we talk about Jesus, we say Jesus Christ like Jesus has a first and a last name. That's how we talk about Jesus Christ, like Denise, Donnell, like Toney Orr. You got a first name and a last name. But Jesus, who is our Christ, that is a different understanding. And I have not yet been to one black church in Arkansas who has made that distinction. I have not yet been to one black church in Arkansas who stands up and says, the war that we are fighting is not invisible. The war that we are fighting is a system that you face every single day. It's in your house. It's on your job. It's in you. I don't hear that. I hear, I plead the blood. And we have got to, first of all, be able to acknowledge that. We don't even want to say that out loud. I can guarantee you're going to get calls today, especially from people from the church saying, I can't, Why? Because if we cannot even say out loud that we've been doing this thing wrong, how are we gonna fight? How you gonna recognize the sign? When he threw that hat up, they recognized the sign. How are you gonna recognize it when you can't even admit that we have been doing this thing wrong? No fault to anybody. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but when you know better, you're supposed to do better. And if we cannot say, y'all, wait a minute, what are we doing? If we don't have enough power within us to recognize that we've been doing something wrong, that we've been leading people astray, because I don't mind confessing that there's blood on my hands. I don't mind confessing that I spent a good part of my adult life teaching people bad theology. I don't mind saying that they sold me Jesus hook, line, and sinker. I don't mind saying that I fell for the okie doke. I don't mind saying that I drank the Kool-Aid. I don't mind, because it's part of my story. And if you can't even admit that, you can't fight. You can't fight. And what worries me is that I know I'm going to be the one that's in the fight. And I'm just wondering sometimes when I hear these conversations from black folks, I'm probably going to get beat to death, because y'all ain't going to come to my rescue. Y'all ain't going to join me. Y'all ain't going to help me. Y'all going to be saying, look, well, I don't know what y'all going to say, but I know y'all ain't going to fight, because you can't recognize it, because you don't believe that your theology is bad. And I don't know what to do with that, but try to help you see. But I can't help you see, like you said, if you don't want to see. So it's a catch-22. Here's Ramen. Fighting a war against an invisible enemy begets in... Oh, listen to Ramen. Fighting a war against an invisible enemy begets infighting. Fighting a war against an invisible enemy begets infighting. Perhaps that's why black people are saying to other black people that we ought to be ashamed about what we saw with the Alabama brawl. Maybe that's why black people are saying to other black people that we need to do better. Maybe that's why black people are saying to other black people that we ought to realize that we playing into their hands. Whatever it is we are saying to each other, perhaps Ramen is on to something. And so what I'm interested in, my mama asked me the other day, she said, Niece, she called me Niece. She said, this was Sunday. I was on my way to church. She said, Niece, I want to go. I want to try to find a church to go to. I said, okay, T, you want to go to church? She said, yeah. And I said, you're going to have to give me some time. I could not even name a church that I would recommend to her to go to, where she would be honored and celebrated in her Blackness, and the theology would not be whitewashed for her. And I told her, I believe it's a church out there. I believe it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just don't know where it is. So if there's anybody out there listening today, and you go to a church, or whatever you call it, because it doesn't have to be a church, a gathering. It can be a collective. My mama is looking for a place where she can have her soul tended as she lives out these beautiful, wonderful days in Arkansas with me. I got her until November. And I want to help her find it. But I'm not going to just send her anywhere. Just like I said, not everybody can pray. I'm not going to just send her anywhere. So y'all help me find a place where you think that she can go and feel relaxed and feel Jesus, her Jesus, because she got Jesus too. Just the spirit of the living God fall fresh on her. I'm looking for that church. Y'all help me find it. And also help me celebrate. I almost forgot. My mama, we got in and out with tea. My mama want to play spades, and we got the game set up for her. She asked me, could we do it once a week? I told her, absolutely not. No, we ain't doing it. We're going to do it once a month. And here it comes in the month of August on Saturday from 12 to 3. She said the last one was too long. So from 12 to 3, we will be at 520 East 16th Street, right here in Petaway at the sanctuary. And you don't have to bring anything. Last time y'all came, y'all had stuff in your hands, and I really appreciate the sentiment. I like the way that you are thinking, but it's not necessary. If you cannot come, you don't have to call and tell me you're not coming. If you want to show up, we will be there from 12 to 3 playing any manner of games. We'll have chess, we'll have checkers, we'll have cards, we'll have Uno, we'll have sequence, we'll have taboo. Whatever game whatever game you're thinking about, we will have it. So we do invite you to join us as we continue to put a smile on my mother's face while she is here in Arkansas.
Just tune in this Thursday. It's the Help Corner. So tune in from 9 to 10 for the Help Corner. Looking forward to In and Out with T. It was so much fun the last time to see T dancing. And she was showing out. She was showing out.
We got invited to another event. What was this event? It was a day party. It was a day party that was hosted by BU. BU is an organization that is led by a Black trans man, Latria. And my mama not only was she present in the space, but she requested the electric slide. And she up on the dance floor with a cane in one hand, doing left and right and going to the back and dipping. I wish you all had seen. When I tell you she is living her best life, and the only way she's able to do that is because y'all are helping me, and I appreciate your support. Caller, you're live on the air. We got about one minute.
Okay, all right. Good morning, Sister Denise.
Oh, it's Matt.
I attended that play the other night. It was wonderful. I encourage anybody to go see the skeleton crew, go see it, see it playing. It was wonderful play, wonderful production. That being said, thank you so much for the case. There's a church right across the street from the radio station, Ricky Hicks. He eulogized my uncle, Gabe Jenkins, many, many years ago before he ever came to that church. And he expressed in a way that old folks would love to be expressed. He might just be the preacher for you. I don't know. I don't attend that church. I've been on several occasions for some quote-unquote Black community meetings. But it's right across the street from the radio station. His name is Ricky Hicks. He's the pastor. I think he's still there. Now, if there's anything at all that we need to do is to remember that these euphemisms and that these parables that we have been accustomed to listening to about the fights and this and that, if we are prisoners of war, remember that all prisoners of war don't remain that way forever. So they are liberated. being said, that, you know, those just euphemisms that we use because we're still, everybody that's in America is not a prisoner of war. And everybody that fought in wars was not a prisoner of war. And there's never been a place and time where everybody was subjected to the whims of those who were trying to conquer them. And a lot of times when you fight for your freedom and you are liberated, you just have to remember to keep practicing that liberation once you're free from the holds of the devil or what have you. And like I said last time, that was just the tip of the iceberg in Montgomery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Meg, for signing us off. You have been listening to Community Voices right here live at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. Your girl Lola is in the house. Don't touch that dial. You want to hear these next 2 hours of jazz because they are for your soul. See you soon. Oh, that was hard.